Hello, my fellow students on the path. I'm Rosemary Davis, also known as Ria, owner and founder of Dragon Mastery LLC. Thank you for visiting our site. Welcome to a path of expansion and growth. I would like to invite you to click on the chat bubble at the bottom of our page for information on how these teachings can change your life. I myself have studied esoteric philosophy for a couple of years now. That wasn't the journey that I began on. I, like everyone else, had my own life doing things. I enjoyed particularly learning philosophy and martial arts. The thing I liked about martial arts the most was the fact that there was always someone who didn't know anything, and because of their knowledge, they were usually picked upon. Um, they were the ones that weren't achieving to their greatest ability, and really was kind of lost just out there living life. As they were faced with the situations in their community that challenged them, they had to go within and find a way to overcome that situation. And usually that involved dealing with the master who taught them physically how to overcome their physical and mental challenges. So I began taking martial arts about 25 years ago with Grandmaster Hong Sik Kim, and I made great friendships and relationships that have lasted me until this day. Um, Grandmaster Kim, after I got my first black belt, honored me with a request to teach, and I thought, well, why not? If he felt I'm good enough, I should be able to help someone. But I really, really, truly enjoyed the whole aspect of martial arts and the learning and the whole mental strengthening that was occurring in my life. As I began to teach, I found that that was lacking in so many of the students. That's where we needed to begin. So, from everything from teaching them how to breathe, because most of us don't breathe properly, to actually teaching them how to think about themselves, their body, and their relationship to what they were doing. In many cases, it was breaking boards or performing a form or doing a technique the way it was meant to be done. As my martial art instruction career continued, I found that I was spending more time teaching about the philosophies of life, how to be a better person, how to implement these tools into everyday life. Um, I opened a martial arts school on Foster it's been about 5 years ago. But I took a little different approach because I had already been teaching the physical aspects of martial arts. I wanted to focus more on the intellectual prospects of martial arts. And so I opened up my center as a martial art training and enlightenment facility. So where people could come and get information on enlightenment. So this is when I really delved into what it was to be enlightened. What did that really mean? So I approached it from many, many, many different angles. I went to philosophy, religion, history, um, science, you name it, anything that had to do with thought and how we perceived thought, that's where I went into. So it kind of led me into some ancient teachings because what I found was that all of the primary religions, New Age and historic, all had basically the same underlying thread running through them. Those threads were found in the ancient esoteric books, so I began to study those. The more I began to study and practice, the more expanded my thoughts became. Then I was at a point about 2 years ago that I just had a need. Well, about 3 years ago now, I just had a need to write down what I was thinking because I was studying everything from esoteric knowledge to New Age knowledge to books of the Bible and so on. But like I said, there was a common thread. So I wanted to share this thread that I had uncovered with those around me. So I started doing a blog post. Um,
I'd never done a blog post before. I had never read a blog post before. And I really didn't know what it was I wanted to write about. But I was just driven to write. And so each Sunday, I would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would sit down at the computer, and I would ask, okay, what is it that I need to say today? What is it that I'm trying to put out? What do I want people to know? And so I just began writing. The titles came from what I was going to write about. I didn't even really know, like I said, what I was going to write about. So I started with the title, and the information just began to flow each week with a complete message, including things that I could do to actually work at um, building that knowledge. And so, or building myself internally. And so, as I began to write, I would um, do what I found later was called um, channel writing. I didn't know what channel writing was at the time, but it's when you touch the Akash with your higher consciousness and you're able to allow information to flow through. So the blog post became a way for information to flow through me um, to give to the masses. That's kind of the best way to say it, because, like I said, I was compelled every week to write this, no matter what. I was sick a couple of times. I ended up in the hospital once. I was out of town. Um, I, like most people, have relationships that we end up, doing things with friends and family that we wouldn't necessarily do by myself. So one was a Christmas party where I got a little too tipsy, but the next morning I was still compelled to get up and write. Once I was done with that, once that desire was through, um, I no longer was compelled to write. When I went back and looked at it, it was one complete full 52-week year that I had written this blog post. And then I was done with it. I didn't look at it again for a whole nother year, a full year. I didn't even there was I didn't even go back and look at the pages. One morning I was sitting here and something said, Rosemary, this needs to be in a book that needs to go out to the world. So I took the blog posts and I thought, well, let's at least take a look at them. And as I began to read them, I was like, holy Jesus, what did I write? A lot of it didn't even make sense to me. Um, because, like I said, I didn't know what I was writing, it just came. So, as I went through the edit process and I began to write out um, what the titles were in the blogs, I began to see process, an arc process, a process to where I was made aware, where I was given the responsibility, and it helped me develop compassion, not only in myself, but for those around me. Those that I thought were just making my life crazy, I began to send love to those situations. And they in themselves improved in a way that I had no idea was possible. Even relationships between siblings that was dangerously chaotic, to say the best about it. Um, Loved ones who loved each other, but in spite of that, would do things to hurt each other because of their mistaken need to control situations. Um, Others that, in spite of their own ability, didn't have the mindset to believe that they were capable of achieving anything, that wouldn't even try because their self concept of their own ability and who they were was so low that they didn't feel that even an attempt was worth it for them. And those things hurt me. When I was young, as I grew up, the spirit was always very, very important to me. I would always, and I think that's why I ended up teaching martial arts, because I would love to inspire. I would love to um, talk with people and make them feel better and make them see positive things in themselves. Um, I was always one that would try new things. Ever since I was young, I just would be excited about trying new things. Well, one thing I noticed when I was younger is that we taught that wild, expressive, free spirit out of our children. And as they grew up, they would not be able to recapture that, or it would be lost in them. And because I'm older in years, I'm in my 60s now, I have seen a lot of people live their life in a flat, oh, I don't even know how to describe it, just a flat line from beginning to end. Every now and then get a bump of excitement or a bump of satisfaction, but mostly living below their own life's possibilities. And that seemed to hurt me. And in my later years, like I said, I'm in my 60s, I didn't want to live that way. And if I could leave a legacy, it would be to help people see that they can live beyond their own preconceived limitations. And so that's what the blog brought for me. Now, what I hope it brings to you in a book form, the journey, the revised version of those blogs with some extended explanations in there about what I was trying to say. Because, like I said, when I wrote the blogs, I didn't know what the information was to be. I didn't understand it. And like you, I was learning as I read it. The book kind of helps you understand what the messages are, gives you an overview from beginning to end of starting with seeking who you are to actually living your best life. And so I hope you all get the book and are able to read it, develop your own goals, and expand your own awareness by reading other authors that are helping us to understand the world that we live in, the bodies that we have, and the minds that we have that are connected between our physical and our spiritual selves, and how to use thought consciousness to move into our higher selves and live our highest potential.